kids, I hope you all are fine. Today we are going to start chapter. So read and enjoy.
Chapter 13 The Gifts of Wali Dad. Read and enjoy. In a mud hut far from town lived an old grass cutter named Wali Dad. Every morning Wali Dad cut and bundled tall wild grass. Every afternoon he sold it as fodder in the marketplace. Each day he earned 30 paisa. 10 of the small coins went for food. 10 went for clothes and other needs, and 10 he saved in a clay pot under his bed. In this manner, Wali Dad lived happily for many years. One evening, Wali Dad dragged out the pot to see how much money it held. He was amazed to find that his coins had filled it to the brim. To himself, "What am I to do with all this money? I need nothing more than I have." Wali Dad thought and thought. At last he had an idea. The next day, Wali Dad loaded the money into a sack and carried it to a jeweler in the marketplace. He exchanged all his coins for a lovely gold bracelet. Then Wali Dad visited the home of a travelling merchant. "Tell me, in all the world, who is the most noblest lady?" "Without doubt, it is the young queen of Kazan. I often visit her palace just 3 days' journey to the east." "Do me a kindness. The next time you pass that way, give her this little bracelet with my compliments." The merchant was astonished, but he agreed to do what the ragged grass cutter asked. Soon after the merchant found himself at the palace of the Queen of Kazan. He presented the bracelet to her as a gift from Wali Dad. Admiring the bracelet, "How lovely! Your friend must accept a gift in return. My servants will load a camel with the finest silks." When the merchant arrived back home, he brought the silks to the hut of Wali Dad. "Oh no! This is worse than before. What am I to do with such finery?" "Perhaps you could give it to someone else." Wali Dad thought for a moment. "Tell me, in all the world, who is the most noblest man?" "That is simple. It is a young king of Nekabad. His palace, too, I often visit, just 3 days' journey to the west." "Then do me another kindness. On your next trip there, give him these silks with my compliments." The merchant was amused, but he agreed. On his next journey, he presented the silks to the king of Nikabad. "A splendid gift. In return, your friend must have 12 of my finest horses." So the merchant bought the king horses to the Wali Dad. "This grows worse and worse. What could I do with 12 horses?" Thinks for a moment. "I know who should have such a gift. I beg you, keep 2 horses for yourself and take the rest to the Queen of Kazan." The merchant thought this was very funny, but he consented. On his next visit to the queen's palace, he gave her the horses. Now the queen was perplexed. She whispered to her prime minister, "Why does this Wali Dad persist in sending gifts? I have never even heard of him. Why don't you discourage him? Send him a gift so rich he can never hope to match it." So in return for the 10 horses from Wali Dad, the queen sent back 20 mules loaded with silver. When the merchant and mules arrived back at the hut, Wali Dad groaned, "What have I done to deserve this? Friend, spare an old man. Keep 2 mules and the silver for yourself and take the rest to the king of Nikabad." The merchant was getting uneasy, but he could not refuse such a generous offer. So not long after, he found himself presenting the silver-laden mules to the king of Nikabad. The king, too, was perplexed and asked his prime minister for advice. Perhaps this Wali Dad seeks to prove himself you better. Why not send him a gift he can never surpass? So the king sent back 20 camels with golden anklets, 20 horses with golden bridles and stirrups, 20 elephants with golden seats mounted on their backs, and 20 liveried servants to take care for them all. When the merchant guided the servants and animals to the Walidad's hut, the grass cutter was beside himself. Will bad fortune never end? Please do not stop for a minute. Keep for yourself 2 of each animal and take the rest to the Queen of Kestan. Distress. How can I go to her again? But Walidad pleaded so hard, the merchant consented to go just once more. This time, the queen was stunned by the magnificence of Walidad's gift. She turned again to her prime minister. Clearly, the man wishes to marry you, since his gifts are so fine. Perhaps you should meet him. So the queen ordered a great caravan made ready with countless horses, camels and elephants. With the trembling merchant as guide, she and her court set out to visit the great Walidad. On the third day, the caravan made camp and the queen sent the merchant ahead to tell Walidad of her coming. When Walidad heard the merchant's news, he had sank to his hands. Mournfully, "Oh no! Now I will be paid for all my foolishness. I have brought shame on myself, on you and on the queen. What are we to do? I fear we cannot do nothing." And the merchant headed back to the Kaaba. The next morning, Walidad rose before dawn. Sadly, "Goodbye, old hut. I will never see you again." The old grass cutter started down the road, but he had not gone far when he heard a voice. Gently, "Where are you going, Walidad?" He turned and saw 2 radiant ladies. He knew at once they were Paris from paradise. "Niels, I am a stupid old man. Let me go my way. I cannot face my shame." "No shame can come to a man like you. Though your clothes are poor, in your heart you are a king." The pari touched him on the shoulder. To his amazement, he saw a rags turned to fine clothes. A jewelled turban set on his head. The rusty sickle at his waist was now a gleaming scimitar. Written, "Walidad, all is as it should be." Walidad looked behind him, where his hut had stood. A splendid palace sparkled in the rising sun. In shock, he turned to the paris, but they had vanished. Walidad hurried back along the road. As he entered the palace, the guards gave a salute. Servants bowed to him, then rushed here and there, preparing for the visitors. Walidad wandered through countless rooms, gaping at riches beyond his imagining. Suddenly, 3 servants ran up, announcing, "A caravan from the east." "No, a caravan from the west." "No, caravans from both east and west." The bewildered Walidad rushed outside to see 2 caravans halted before the palace. Coming from the east was a queen in a jewelled litter. Coming from the west was a king on a fine horse. Walidad hurried to the queen. "My dear Walidad, we meet at last." Looks at king. "But who is that magnificent king?" "I believe it is the king of Nicobar." "Your Majesty, please excuse me for a moment." He rushed over the king. "My dear Walidad, I had to meet the giver of such fine gifts." Looks at queen. "But who is that splendid queen?" Smiling. "The Queen of Kestan, Your Majesty. Please come and meet her." And so the king of Nicobar met the Queen of Kestan, and the two fell instantly in love. A few days later their marriage took place in the palace of Walidad, and the celebration went on for many days. At last, Walidad had said goodbye to all his guests. The very next morning, he rose before dawn, crept quietly from the palace and started down the road. But he had not gone far when he had heard a voice. "Where are you going, Walidad?" He turned and again saw the two Paris. Niels, did I not tell you I am a stupid old man? I should be glad for what I had received, but say no more. You shall have your heart's desire. And she touched him again. So Walidad became once more a grass cutter, living happily in his hut for the rest of his days. And though he often thought warmly of his friends, the king and queen, he was careful never to send them another gift.